Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of the Kevin Blekicki Show. This is episode number 35. We are in junction with the Ryan Show, and we're going to make history today as this is the first episode of this show that will be recorded after a New York Jets win. They actually did it. They won't go winless. They are now 1-7 on the season after a win against the Cincinnati Bengals in Cincinnati. We're going to talk about that game and what it means for the Jets moving forward. We're also going to break down the World Series. We've had some amazing games in that World Series so far. We also have to touch on this insane NBA gambling scandal as people are getting arrested and the mafia is involved. And we'll also touch on Brian Kelly being the recent college football head coach to get fired. All of that is coming up on this edition of the Kevin Blekicki Show. But before we get into this Jets win, I do have to bring you some somber news as Nick Mangold, the former Jets center, spent 10 years with the Jets, Pro Bowl center, All Pro, has his name in the Ring of Honor, although he doesn't have his jersey retired, most likely going into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He passed away on Saturday at the age of 41 due to a kidney disease. This is absolutely heartbreaking news. I had no idea that he was even sick. And so the fact that he's no longer with us is absolutely heartbreaking. My thoughts and prayers go out to his family. This is an insane tragedy, and it's so sad to hear. Nick Mangold, from everything that I hear, was just as good of a person off the field as he was a player on the field. It was absolutely heartbreaking to see Rex Ryan break down on Sunday, talking about the loss of Rex Ryan of Nick Mangold. I watched the Jets pregame show, and Willie Colon couldn't even get a word out. So Bart Scott had to talk for a little bit, take the pressure off of him. It was just an emotional day, and of course, the Jets coming into this week hadn't won a game all season. So the fact that they were able to win on such a dark day in this franchise's history is absolutely massive. So glad they got off the schneid and got the win. That one was for Nick, and now let's break it down, because this was a wild game, probably the best game of the week. And this was an important week for the Jets because last week, Woody Johnson decided to open his mouth and badmouth Justin Fields, basically saying that he can't complete a forward pass, really ripping him to shreds and just tearing down his confidence. And in the post-game press conference, Justin Fields told the world how he felt about this and how he was lying in his closet crying. And for someone who is ignorant, doesn't know better, thinks he's some macho man, probably looks at Justin Fields talking about how he was crying and thinks he's some sort of baby or wuss or some sort of little kid. But Justin Fields is human. He is a human just like everybody else, and he's put under immense scrutiny and pressure. And this Jets team, this franchise, this organization has been terrible, not just for most of, if not all of my life, but really their entire existence. They haven't won a Super Bowl since 1968. They haven't made the playoffs since 2010, which is the longest drought in North American sports currently. And this team is a joke. This team is pathetic. And there comes a lot of pressure and a lot of scrutiny to be the next Joe Namath and to bring this team back to glory and to make it relevant and not a joke anymore. So Justin Fields is under tremendous amount of pressure, and he expressed that. And this past week, he was able to respond. He had one of his best games as a Jet, 21 of 32 passing, 244 yards, one touchdown, as well as 11 carries for 31 yards on the ground. He didn't get sacked. He didn't turn the ball over. He played a really clean game, and the Jets ended up winning as a result of it. Now, look, this defense has a lot of issues, and they did not help the Jets offense at all. The Jets were playing from behind for most of the game until the very end. And this defense has been absolutely terrible in this game after doing pretty well in the last couple weeks. They just weren't able to stop a nosebleed. Jamar Chase did get a lot of catches, although he was held under 100 yards. So you kind of take that. He had a lot of short, intermediate catches. He wasn't really able to, you know, really make any explosive plays down the field. There was that one play to T. Higgins that ended up resulting in a touchdown. But other than that, the Jets, pass defense wasn't too terrible. They did allow a lot of catches, but they didn't allow that big over the top play. Like I said, except for that one T. Higgins play. And they weren't able to put a lot of pressure on Joe Flacco except for a sack on the second to last drive that set up the Jets to get the game-winning touchdown drive. But this offense, they were able to run the ball, and this is what they have to do. They have to give the ball to Breece Hall. They have to, have designed runs for Justin Fields, work off that play action, and this is what happens. They put up 39 points without Garrett Wilson, and the leading receiver in this game was Tyler Johnson, who had 64 yards, and the two guys with the most catches were Isaiah Davis, a running back, and Mason Taylor, the rookie tight end, who each had 5 catches. So, there weren't a whole lot of options for Justin Fields to throw the ball to, and he made the best of that situation, and it helped get the Jets to win. And you also have to give a huge shout out to Aaron Glenn. And Aaron Glenn was about to get on my last nerves because for the longest time this week, he was doing press conferences and whatnot. He would not tell us who the starting quarterback would be this week. And now with the injury to Tyrod Taylor, it was always going to be Justin Fields. As much as I would have probably liked to see Brady Cook potentially, go out there, see what he can do, it was always going to be Justin Fields. And the fact that he wouldn't just announce that Justin Fields was the starting quarterback when everyone and their mother knew that Justin Fields was going to be the starting quarterback really ticked me off because it made it seem like Aaron Glenn thinks that he's the smartest guy in the room and that he knows more than everybody else. And that's kind of the vibe that I've been getting from him these past couple of weeks. He's been saying that, in Detroit, they struggled all this time, and then, they gave Dan Campbell a long enough leash, and then, things started to turn around. And while that is true, he was a part of that team. Just Aaron Glenn just talked the talk without walking the walk, and it really rubbed me the wrong way. And he was pretty aggressive in this game. On the opening drive, the Jets go for fourth down on in their own side of the field, and it was a terrible play design. You did a halfback toss to Breece Hall. Of course, it got stuffed in the backfield. I don't know why you're not running north and south, why you're trying to be cute with it, but that didn't end up working. Then the next drive, they had a chance. They probably could have or should have gone for the fourth down on that position, but they ended up kicking a field goal. And they went for two twice in this game, and they ended up getting it. The first one was on it was a pass. And to that point, the Jets had been doing so good running the football that it was almost insane the fact that the Jets were gonna try and pass the ball in that situation when running the ball would be the far superior option because that's the success that they've been having all day. But Justin Fields rolls out of the pocket and ends up running in for the 2-point conversion. So, all's well that ends well. And then on the second one, uh, Justin Fields, it's another pass play after the Jets have been running the ball effectively all game long. And it literally came down to a challenge. Like the nose of the football ended up breaking the plane. Initially, it didn't look like it was a 2-point conversion, that it was good, but it ended up being good. And that was the 2 points that ended up giving the Jets the win. So you do have to give a lot of credit to Aaron Glenn. In a week where the Jets were heavy with the heart, thinking about Nick Mangold, it did kind of seem like a 2009, 2010 Rex Ryan Jets era when, at least from the coaching standpoint, there was a lot of running the ball, there was a lot of play action passes, and there was a lot of gutsy calls. You got to give Aaron Glenn a lot of credit for the way that he coached this game against the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, of course, with this win, it hurts the Jets' draft stock. They went from the number 1 overall pick to now the number 2 overall pick. And I'm here to say that, especially after losing Nick Folk, if you are upset or angry that the Jets lost this game, you're not a real Jets fan. And I don't really want to engage with you or talk to you in any way because winning a game after losing a man like that was bigger than the game of football. And you know what? I'll be damned if I'm going to be watching this team week to week and be forced to watch a team lose every game this season. I want to win at least one game each year. I do not want to be an embarrassment to the league. And you know what? I don't want to finish the season with the worst record. I don't want to look at my team and say that they were the worst team in football. I want there to at least be something to hang our hat on. And you know what? The first 7 weeks of this season sucked. It was terrible. And the Jets were the worst team in football, and they played like it each and every week. But you know what? They got the win last week. Now they have a bye week. After that bye week, they have to play the Cleveland Browns. It's going to be tough, especially with Myles Garrett. He got 5 sacks and they still lost. It's going to be a tough task going up against the Cleveland Browns. But even if they don't win that game, I want to see heart. I want to see passion. I want to see a team that isn't ready to give up on the season. What happened in the first half of the season was terrible, and you can't change that. They really, if a couple things went their way, they could be sitting here with a winning record. Unfortunately, they weren't able to close out games. Things did not go their way, and they ended up losing 7 straight games to start the season. I want to see this team come out of the bye week with their heads on fire. I want them to be aggressive, and I want them to play to win. And that's what, former Jets head coach Herman Edwards' famous saying was, you play to win the game. And I want the Jets to win. And I want the Jets to go out in these remaining 9 games, and I want them to play hard. I want them to play with their hearts on their sleeves. I want them to be playing for their jobs because they probably are. There's a good chance that a lot of them are going to be on the trading block. Michael Carter, the cornerback, just got traded to the Eagles. There's a lot of guys that would be very lucrative pieces to move at the trade deadline because they could, bring back a lot of draft capital for this team, which they desperately need. But I want these guys to really hunker down and play hard and play to win. I don't want to give up on the season, even though the season's over. I don't care about that. I don't care about draft position. I just want to see this team play hard. That does it for the first part of this Kevin Blekicki show. We will be back after these messages. And we are back with more of the Kevin Blekicki show in conjunction with the Ryan show. We have to talk about this World Series. It's been absolutely nuts. It's between the Dodgers and the Blue Jays. The Dodgers were the preseason runaway favorites to run it back and go back to back as World Series champions. But the Blue Jays, those pesky Blue Jays, have been proving everybody wrong so far, and they are just one win away from their first title since 1993. That is before I was born. And I know a lot of people call me old, but not even myself has been old enough to see the Blue Jays win the World Series. But they put the world on notice in game one, making a statement and winning game one by a score of 11-4. The Dodgers tie it up. They don't go quietly. They win game two 5-1. Then in game three of the World Series, we had an all-time classic, tied for the longest game in World Series history in terms of innings, going 18. The Dodgers winning 6-5 on a Freddie Freeman walk-off home run, again in the World Series like he did last year. But it was a little bit shorter than the one in 2018, which also happened to feature the Dodgers and Mookie Betts, although he was playing for the Red Sox on that team. And then you had game four. Now, game three, at least on the East Coast, it didn't end until almost 3 a.m. And then these teams had to go back and play again at 8 o'clock the next night. So everyone was wondering, how are the Blue Jays going to respond? Are they going to put their heads in their hands and just say, oh, woe is me, and completely roll over and die? They do the exact opposite. They take game four by a score of 6-2. They tie the series up. And then they followed up again with another win at Dodger Stadium, 6-1. They now lead the series 3-2, and they head back to Toronto with their chance to win their first World Series championship since 1993. This series has been absolutely insane, and you have to give a huge shout out to the Toronto Blue Jays. I was unfamiliar with their game. I thought that they were going to be kind of overrated, and I was completely wrong. They have not only played to the standard that the Dodgers set, but they are passing it. They are not afraid of the Dodgers. They're not afraid of anyone. The Dodgers have this super team, and then the Blue Jays getting production from a dude literally named Ernie. Like, I mean, it's insane. And Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is having one of the best postseasons of all time. He now has 8 home runs this postseason. That's tied for the second most in MLB history in a single postseason. Trey is savage. I mean, we got to give it up for this man. This man in game 5 of the World Series struck out 12 batters. That is the most batters struck out by a rookie in a World Series game in MLB history, and he's the only rookie to strike out 10-plus hitters in multiple World Series games in the same year. And this guy, Trey Savage's story is absolutely insane. He started off the year in single A Dundon. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. He went 3-0, 2.43 ERA, 55 strikeouts, and 33 1/3 innings. Then he goes to High A Vancouver in May. He made 4 starts, 1.56 ERA, 33 strikeouts in 17 1/3 innings. Then he got promoted to Double A New Hampshire and appeared in the All-Star Futures game. Then he recorded 46 strikeouts and 30 innings in New Hampshire. Then he got promoted to AAA Buffalo on August 11th. This is all this year. He's done all of this calendar season And then after making 6 appearances in Buffalo, 3.63 ERA, 26 strikeouts, and 17 and a third innings, he gets called up on September 15th, selected to the 40-man roster, and promoted to the major leagues. And then now, just about almost 2 months later, he's not only starting games in the World Series, but he's absolutely dominating them. Every single hitter in the Dodgers lineup in Game 5 struck out to Trey Savage. I mean, this guy is absolutely insane. And if it wasn't for Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Trey Savage would win World Series MVP, and they still might give it to him. Depending on what happens in these next 2 games, if he comes out of the bullpen, maybe gives them like an inning or two and helps them win, he might as very well be the World Series MVP. But in Game 6 of the World Series in Toronto, we have Yoshinobu Yamamoto going up against Kevin Gossman. And just to show you how good Yoshinobu Yamamoto has been, he pitched twice in the postseason so far. He pitched in the NLCS against the Brewers, and he ended up throwing a complete game in that game. And then that was a complete game shutout, and then he goes and gives up 1 run in a complete game in the World Series. So he's made 2 starts, has given up 1 run in 18 innings. So he's absolutely dominated. And in the 18-inning game, the marathon in Game 3, he would have gotten the ball in the 19th inning. He talked to the coaching staff, and he said that he was ready to pitch and give them an inning or maybe some innings in that marathon game. So he's been absolutely insane. And while the Blue Jays are only 1 win away, they're going up against probably the best pitcher in this postseason so far, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, if it wasn't for Trey Savage. But this series is going to be absolutely insane. I can't wait to watch these games and see how it plays out. I think that it's going to be the Dodgers. My bad. I think it's going to be the Blue Jays, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Dodgers take these 2 games in Toronto because they've been there before. They know how to get it done, and maybe the pressure is too much for the Blue Jays. But I do think that the Blue Jays get the job done in 7 games. Now, we have to talk about this NBA scandal. This gambling scandal is absolutely insane. So basically what went down was Chauncey Billups, the head coach of the Portland Trailblazers, he got involved with the freaking mafia, and he was running illegal poker games, and he just got arrested. And so did Terry Rozier for a bunch of bets being wagered on one of his games. All of them were wagered on the under. He plays a little bit and then removes himself from the game. All of those unders hit, and then, of course, that gets flagged. The NBA gets involved. They investigate it. And then, now we're having the FBI director, Kash Patel, do a press conference and basically tell us all of this information. And it's just heartbreaking. It really is, because, these guys have to be really sick. That's the only explanation for this. Chauncey Billups is an NBA legend. Of course, I remember him from those great days on the Pistons. And, he's got all the money in the world. Terry Rozier, all the money in the world. These guys don't need to be gambling and risking not just their future in the NBA, but jail time. These guys got arrested. The FBI was doing investigations on these people. This is serious. And this is what makes it so heartbreaking is I can't speak for everybody, but I watch sports because I don't know what's going to happen. And you watch because something amazing could happen. and you can say that you've seen it. And, part of the reason why I love sports is that, it's a common lived experience. People come together and watch this, and it's a great time, and you never know what's going to happen. But when people are out here purposely, taking themselves out of games, so random wagers hit and some dude wins a couple hundred grand, it really puts things into perspective, and it makes you wonder, are people out here actually throwing games? That's the worst possible thing that could be happening to the NBA right now, or to really to any league, is players out here throwing games. Because when you don't have integrity in your league, you have nothing. Everyone, talks about how bad officiating can be, and we kind of had that with the Tim Donaghy scandal years ago. Him, putting wagers on games and stuff, and it's just something that you never wanna see. You always wanna believe that the players that are going out there are playing out there with their good intentions, just trying to have a nice, hard-fought competition and an honest day's work, and for people to possibly be throwing games and having people bet the under, and then doing stuff to affect the outcomes of the games, it ruins it. It ruins the sport, and the NBA is on thin ice because they already have all these streaming services that you need to watch the NBA on. You can't just watch it on cable. And, I don't really care about the ratings, but the reason why the ratings are down, I don't think that it's because less people are watching. It's because less people are watching it legally. People are getting these legal streaming services and these websites because it's too unaffordable. We're also, not to bring politics in it, but it's real world stuff. SNAP benefits are going to be taken away on November 1st. So there's going to be people out there that are going to be starving and looking for food for their kids, and they're not going to be able to afford all these different streaming services for the NBA and stuff. So people are going to be going to other resources and methods to watch it. And, you're having these people, pay more and more money every time to go to these sporting events, and you have this load management crap going on, people, purposely sitting out to save themselves to the playoffs or whatever. And then you have these families that are paying their hard-earned money to go and see these guys, and they're not even going to be playing. So the NBA is already in hot water. And if a scandal comes out where the players are getting or trying to throw these games because of a quick payday, the whole thing's going to collapse. That is the worst case scenario, and I hope that it is just a couple of bad actors. And I don't think that gambling should be illegal, but I mean, they gotta really tone it down with all of these, gambling ads, and everything is so in your face and making it so accessible, and it's hurting the league as a result of it, because these players who are probably already sick, probably already have a gambling addiction. You're just putting it in their face and you're making it worse. That's why they're doing this, because they're sick. And if you have this continue, the entire integrity of the NBA is out the window. And it's definitely not going to be the only league. It's going to be happening with the NFL, and it's going to be happening in Major League Baseball. Otani had some betting scandal. It's going to happen all across sports, and it's scary times, and I hope that it doesn't continue. But finally, before we get out of here, quickly have to mention the fact that Brian Kelly got fired from not Notre Dame, from LSU. And as a Notre Dame fan, I'm very pleased by this. Of course, if you go on social media and search the hashtag BKAK, stands BKKAK, it stands for Brian Kelly killed a kid. You can look it up on your own, with the whole scissor lift incident. But Brian Kelly is a terrible person and does not deserve a job in college football. And it's pretty dystopian that these guys are getting paid tens of millions of dollars to sit home and be fired and not work. While, as I mentioned previously, people are going to be losing their SNAP and their EBT cards for no reason. Whatever. That does it for this edition of the Kevin Blekicki Show. If you want to follow me on social media, you can look at the social media handles down below. It's all at Kevin Blekicki on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. If you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube. And as always, we'll see you again next week.